this is Summer Todd. My show was Summer Todd's Mystery Show, but we're changing it to Summer Todd's Creepy Corner. Tonight, we're going to be discussing Hollywood and kind of cult of Hollywood, or any stuff like Illuminati, anything that you want to discuss. It'll probably morph out into some different stuff. So that's what we're doing tonight. It's been a while since I've been on here, so hopefully we'll have a good show. And feel free to comment. And my son will be here, Austin, discussing things. So if you want to kick it off, Austin, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I wrote down like a big list of different things to discuss. We could even probably do a couple episodes of this, but I'll just start with that first thing I wrote. So there was a rapper who's also a big TikTok creator, who goes by the name of Arthur Fleck, and he had a series of videos about how he met the devil, and the devil gave him a career that he just couldn't get off the ground himself. And this is true for a lot of celebrities. But he basically, he'd gotten off of a tour, he had no money, he didn't really have any fans, his career was going nowhere, and he was just crying about it, and he swore up and down that the devil pretty much answered his cries that night without him realizing it, because a few weeks later he was called to go to the offices in Sony, which I think was in New York. He had a guy who he didn't realize, but now he realizes that guy was the devil, and the guy had him sign the contract, that he would make, 10 million. He would invest. This guy was going to invest like $10 million in him, and he would make $100 million back out of it. And so, he was really skeptical about it, but he was desperate, so he decided to go ahead and give it a try, So he signed the contract, and it wasn't even a month later. He had hundreds of millions of dollars. He was selling out concerts and stuff all over the place. He was going to this guy's mansion, and there was all these beautiful women there that just all the time, he accessed all the best drugs and everything else. But as time went on, this guy started telling him this story about how his father, and how when he was a kid, his father and him had a really terrible relationship. He started telling Arthur Fleck about how him and his father had this really terrible relationship. One day they finally had a blow up, and he stormed out of his father's house, just crying his eyes out, and he told his father before he left, "One day you'll work for me, not the other way around." And he started realizing that the more he looked around Hollywood, this guy was the devil, and he was telling him a first-hand account of his own fall from heaven when he was the archangel Lucifer, and his father was God, and they got into it, and God told him he had to go because he was basically trying to take over and make God work for him. And then he somehow or another, Arthur Fleck had realized that he started reading into this guy's interactions with other celebrities, a lot of whom had died. And he was into the paranormal and the occult already, so he started putting two and two together. And that was how he found out this guy was actually the devil, and that everyone who made a deal with him had to be sacrificed in blood as part of the deal, or their career had to be sacrificed, or their relationship with their family had to be sacrificed. There was always some kind of major sacrifice had to be made as a result of the deal that they had made with him. And somehow or another, he got out, but there was only like 8 short videos in the series where he gave a basic rundown of how he thought the devil had come into his life, how the devil gave him the career, how he found out this guy was the devil, and then how it basically ended when he realized there was a sacrifice. But the last video, he said he was going to be ending the series because he had been threatened for putting this stuff out there in the first place, and he didn't go into any detail about how he had gotten out. He just said he got out before it was too late and he had to be sacrificed, but he didn't go into any detail about exactly how it was he got out. And if you look at a lot of celebrities, so many of them have died, or they've had really close loved ones die. And you've seen, well, people's careers implode too. It's not always like the death of a loved one of theirs or themselves. Sometimes they sacrifice, their careers, but there always has to be some sort of sacrifice as a result of that.
Well, didn't that last video, didn't he say, or what, that wasn't his last video. I saw a video where, did he say something about Jay-Z or Diddy, and then he kind of backtracked on it?
Oh, that was Kanye West, because he was doing this supposedly Kanye West was, as we all know, Kanye West was on this big rant about Jews and stuff, and running Hollywood, and how the devil was running Hollywood and stuff, and he was in league with the Jews. He went on these big tirades about it, and he said they were going to retaliate against him for. Kanye said they were going to retaliate against him for saying all this stuff and exposing him. And that when they did, he would probably disappear and then for a while drop out of the public spotlight, and then he would reappear. But when he reappeared, he said it wouldn't be him because they were going to either off him or they were going to destroy his career, but they were just going to make it look like he took a break. So what happened was, there was not too long after he started doing that, he supposedly went into this bipolar episode because Kanye West is supposed to be mentally ill. He supposedly was not on his medications, so he was, even though he was a billionaire, he wasn't on his medication. He was having a psychotic episode, and he was going down to Skid Row hanging out with homeless people and stuff all the time. So the first video was where Arthur Fleck was talking about how they used that as a cover story, that Kanye West had flipped his lid because he wasn't on his meds, and his mother had recently passed and he was having a breakdown because of that, which is interesting coming back to the sacrifice concept. But and they said that he had just went off his rocker and he was hanging out down on Skid Row. But in the first video, Arthur Fleck said that he actually went down. He was in the area around Skid Row one day, and the guy that looked just like Kanye came up to him not too far from where all the homeless encampments were, and he said it was Kanye West told him, They did what I warned everybody they were going to do. They froze my bank accounts. They've removed me from. They've destroyed my career. They've destroyed my fortune and everything. I've lost everything, and now I'm down here. and they're in the media telling everybody that I just went crazy and I'm in a mental hospital, in and out of mental hospitals and hanging out with homeless people. But what they really did was they froze my bank account so I couldn't pay any of my bills or debts to them, and I've lost everything, and now I'm down here. And they're going to act like I recovered and replace me with a body double. That was the first video that Arthur Fleck did on that, because he said he met Kanye not too long after that, because he was a big rapper and he was in some of those circles. And then he did another video. He came back with another video where he said, or Arthur Fleck came back with another video after he'd done that first one, where he said, okay, I did a little more digging to elaborate further on the whole story I told in the first video, and I found out that Kanye actually had been having mental issues, and according to his first wife, which I think was, or his wife, his former wife, Kim Kardashian, I don't know if she was his first or not, but she said Kanye would disappear for days at a time because he was psychotic and he was not taking his meds, and he was having a real hard time coping with his mother's death, and that he would go missing days or weeks at a time, come back sometimes after wearing the same clothes he had been wearing for weeks, not having had taken a shower. And so he said it was actually true that Kanye was just having mental problems, and that's why he was disappearing for weeks at a time. Yeah, because he said it. He said it first in the first video. He had said, well, okay, he was making all these statements about Hollywood, the people who really run Hollywood and all this, and how people sell their souls to the devil. And he warned everybody he was going to be framed as being crazy and then replaced with someone else. And then he said in that video he had met him too after they'd actually destroyed his career. And not too long after that, he supposedly made a big comeback and was doing better again. But he had said in that first video it wasn't the real Kanye. And then he backtracked, but he made that second video where he backtracked and said he had done some research, and it turned out Kanye was just completely off his rocker, and he was going down and hanging out on Skid Row because he wasn't on his meds, and he was having a psychotic episode.
That's weird because look at, there's so many of this that happened to Chappelle. Remember, he supposedly and went to Africa or something, and then Britney Spears, Wendy Williams. Who else? There's somebody else right now I'm thinking I can't think of. There's just several of them that, like in Wendy Williams, I don't even know what's going on with her. Like she said somebody took over her money. And she has a conservatorship, but she doesn't know who it is. And and then people were saying on TMZ that doesn't seem to be insane. But she's saying it's because she crossed Jay-Z.